Man.
104.7 The K. Mike the
Good
Intern in the
morning.
studio with Jay Stevens,
Good morning.
who did his
Yeah,
hair.
look, I did not do my hair for 3 days.
That's why it looks so
God,
good.
it's really looking crazy.
Dark Side of the Stream episode, what are we at? 121 this
Slipped into
week.
something more comfortable.
This was Jay's pick, I believe.
Which one was this?
This was Untold.
Oh, this
Operation
was a good one. This was
Flagrant
a good one.
Foul.
Yeah, good one.
Oh, no. This was my pick. This was actually Jay's pick, but I didn't have anything, so I
Well, you
stole
do
it
that
from
quite
Jay, which I
often. You
did
do that quite
that. I
frequently.
do that because sometimes I just don't have any ideas. But as I mentioned, this is episode 121, Dark Side of the Stream. And this week we are talking about the 2007 betting scandal in the NBA, which basically centers around Tim Donahue,
right?
That's right.
The
NBA
ref.
He was a ref who got caught in 07 and had been for a while, but giving his buddies tips on betting and possibly connections to organized crime.
Well, this is where the slippery slope comes in. You know a lot about the sport. You got inside information about a sport. So the UFC is going through this right now. Like literally, the UFC's got a big scandal
referees
with coaches.
What do you mean? Like, tell me.
It's a weird one. It's another slippery slope because a guy coaches fighters, and he also has a podcast giving out fight picks. And one of his fighters fought, and literally the odds were like crazy. The betting line was weird, and within 1 minute, the fighter was down and said, "I can't fight no more. My leg's too screwed up." He had inside information. They're saying that this guy's leg was screwed up, and he passed it along to his picks, and it's a slippery slope.
God, that's even more messed up. I mean, the referees, it's definitely like you have this. You're supposed to be this way, and that's just the way it is. But your coaches, that's even more of kind of a because
it's almost
you're like betting
on
against your guy. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's almost like insider trading, like the government people do. They say, "Oh, we don't do that," but
dude,
you
I think
100%
every
do
single
that.
elected official should not be allowed to.
But they're going to tell if somebody, so they say they can't trade. They're going to tell their cousin, "Hey," or their cousin's friend, "Buy this stock, and then we'll split the money in the end." I mean, it's unavoidable, man. You know?
So you get the feeling, at least I do, especially in professional sports, when there's that much money on the line.
You
don't want to be like that guy where it's like, oh, this ref or that ref, and they do this and they do that. But like recently, Chapers for the Chiefs. I mean, there was a lot of stuff. Right? And again, I was wearing a tinfoil hat until I was reminded that when he wasn't officiating for the Chiefs are like 5-2. He throws flags like crazy, and it drives you nuts. But you look at the record. But then you look at there were people that were looking at like how he was able to cover the dog. And
I've seen
you
showed me a big rabbit hole of stuff on that. Right,
that's interesting. Why does that always happen?
Right.
It could just be a coincidence. It could just be the way he throws, and that just how the game, because he throws his flag so much. But it's so easy just to say, well, they're fixing it.
But here's the thing. Here's where the slippery slope, like the NBA ref. Okay, I know a lot about this team. I know so and so's hurt. That's a little edge, but. Is that illegal? I think that's fine. That's just kind of knowledge. It's knowledge. But when it goes to the part of, well, if I call a few more fouls on this team in the end of the game, we can get the score closer, then you can manipulate the score. That's where I think it becomes illegal. So it is kind of a fine line. Knowing a lot about a sport, that shouldn't be a crime. If you study stats like crazy, you should be able to make money off that. But this guy kind of crossed the line. And then when you get involved with the mob, that line really gets crossed.
Well, like I said, it really comes down to the faith that you have in the guys who are supposed to do their job by the book. And when something like this comes out, and I know it's been, 15 years or so, it's still like, it's probably still happening.
Well, that's what this documentary starts to allude to. Is that it's known that it goes on, and it's been swept under the rug by a lot of people, and he just took the fall.
Well, the documentary is very telling, and you are right. One guy definitely took the fall after the FBI got involved, and that's what we're talking about, the Untold Flagrant Foul scandal. Dark Side of the Stream, 104.7 The Cave. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio.
Dark Side of the Stream. Do that right before we go on the air. He just drops a bomb on me and makes me laugh over here. Man.
121, discussing Untold Operation Flagrant Foul. Now, this whole story broke when the New York Post reported that the FBI was investigating allegations that a NBA referee had bet on games. And this actually wasn't uncommon. Whenever this thing broke, and of course, they went in after this guy and they looked at what he had done, and he ended up getting what was like 3 years or something like that. No. It was 3 years supervised probation, 15 months in prison. Considering how much money he probably made, I think it was kind of a slap on the wrist. But they were saying after the NBA kind of did a internal investigation that there were a lot of referees that were engaged in several forms of betting. Now, it wasn't necessarily through sports books, but they had made bets in casinos a lot. About half of the NFL officials up until that point were betting. NBA.
Well, half. NFL too, but yeah.
But yeah, we're just focused on the NBA here. We can't talk about baseball or NFL because that's what this is. This was just talking about basketball. But half of the referees were betting. That's insane. This isn't like the 60s or 70s where that stuff would be on the side. You know, I'm sure it happened a lot.
Pretty mainstream,
but like we're talking about in an era where like this stuff is all on record. Everywhere you go, there's digital copies of everything that you do, and these guys were still feeling comfortable enough to do it. Well, half of the officials, man.
I know. Well,
but you're right. They focused on one guy, and that's because he had done it so, excuse the pun, flagrantly.
Oh, good. That was good.
It was like, this is like, yeah, these other guys are probably doing it on the slide, but they don't have enough to where we can go after this guy. They definitely went after this dude big time.
Yeah.
And because they could prove it. But yeah, it was, man, he did things as far as like used coded language to tip others about players' physical condition, like you mentioned with the
like,
fighting, what's happening now. Player referee relations, if these guys are cool with these dudes, because that happens all the time. He's specifically admitting to passing info about 2 games during the 06 and 07 season. In total, received over $30,000 to pass inside information.
Well, yeah, I think he made way more than that. I don't think you're going to risk your career for $30,000.
No.
So let's add.
That's like the
let's add a few zeros on the end of that.
We're down with the trailer, and some guy goes, "Hey, what if I sweeten? What do you about get my chances up? If so I was like, what are you going to do? Give me $20,000 because that's how much this costs. What do you think my job's worth to me? Right. It's a lot more than $20,000. I'll tell you that much right now, buddy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Which at one point in the documentary too, they kind of asked him about that. He kind of changed the answer. Like they asked him twice, and both times with a different answer. Like, there's no way, unless you're just a complete bozo, for $30,000, you're not going to risk and throw away your entire life.
Well, no, you're right, but it really came down to, well, at least he admitted that he had a severe gambling addiction, and that is part of the reason why he was willing to risk it.
He said his family was getting threatened or whatever, but also though, the weird thing is, a lot of times people go, "Oh, this game's rigged. The refs are rigging this game." He talks about possibly that does happen, and it's actually they want that to happen. They want the game to go 7 games. Yeah, he says they do sometimes want it to go 7 games.
Hell yeah, the league wants them to go 7 games because there's more money involved. We'll talk more about that next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The K. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 121, discussing Untold, the Operation Flagrant Foul scandal involving Tim Donaghy. And so anyway, the FBI, they get a bunch of stuff on him. There are some congressmen involved on this thing because of, of course, betting and gambling and all this stuff. And at one point calling this one of the most damaging scandals in the history of American sports. What's crazy about this is I'm watching this, and it was 15 years ago, but no one talks about it anymore. You see how quickly it just disappeared? Yeah, and that goes back to what you were saying before we went to break, which was some of these leagues, they don't want to see a 3-4 game series. They want to see a full 7 game series.
That brings it a lot more money, man.
And so when you start to look at it like that in regards to basketball and of course baseball, most of the time these series go 6-7 games.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder.
Yeah. Are the teams that good, or is there something else going on? I mean, it's
just so many things but
I mean, look at the, you look at football games, even the most recent playoff games that we had. One flag, one call here and there kind of can change the outcome.
It literally can. Yeah. Now, and there's certain
things. And that's
just
one call can actually change the outcome.
And you're absolutely right. And again, I always go back to one play doesn't make or change the game because circumstances lead up to that situation, and that those circumstances are based on your stuff, but that doesn't help. And again, football is different because we don't play series. There's no series. It's one and done. And you're out. That's just the way it goes. But when you're talking about baseball and you're talking about NBA, there's so many different things that come into play. It's a little bit more easier, I think, to kind of gauge it into a certain way especially when you're talking about series for championships and playoffs.
You could be like, hey, last night Jordan was palming the ball.
Yeah.
Well, tonight let's call that. We didn't call it last night. Tonight let's call that.
Yeah, we're going to focus on that.
Or all of a sudden they start blowing more whistles.
Or fouls. Sometimes you'll watch them play. They'll watch a basketball game and it'll look like they're playing on the street.
Yeah.
And nothing's getting called.
And then all of a sudden
the next day they breathe on each other and they're getting fouling out. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. And it sucks because everyone puts so much time and money and effort into watching these games that it would just completely shake the foundation of what we believe is legitimate. It just all of a sudden becomes WWE. What's the difference?
Right. And then, scripted. I mean, then do you really blame?
Why do I care so much?
And do you really blame guys for being like, if you got a phone call, hey, there's a heavyweight fight tomorrow. I just talked to the guy and he can't fight. He can't see straight. He's going to get knocked out for sure.
Well, hell no, because
you're going to go put money on the dude.
Well, yeah,
it's like you can't blame him.
From the perspective of like your buddy has got information and he's like, hey, do this. There's no difference in being like, hey, this PlayStation 5 is over at the Walmart and I saw 3 of them. Get there before they sell out. It's kind of the same thing.
Right. It's like such a fine line to illegal to non-illegal.
Like, for the guy that's doing that stuff, you're an official. You're like a judge, man. Like, this is the line. And if that's the path you want to go down, you've got a reputation to uphold and a foundation of like, we believe that this is the way it should be. You're an official for a reason. And we hope, at least I do, that you're on the up and up. And you should be. And there are great officials out there.
And it's just like state representatives and all these senators and stuff, like with the stock market. Like,
yeah, you would hope that they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Some of these guys, they've got a better track record than anybody in the world at the stock market, man.
Yeah, it just blows my mind, and it's sad, and hopefully it's not as rampant.
Money screws everything up, man.
Yeah, it does. All right, we'll talk about our review next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. .7 The K. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio one more time to discuss Untold, Operation Flagrant Foul on Netflix, which is a really good documentary you should check out if you haven't already. Part of the 9-part Untold documentary series.
Those have all been pretty good, actually.
Yeah, almost all of them have been really, really good. And it's part of the reason is the production company that's involved is really good. And the music is actually done by a guy I love called Brocker Way. He does soundtracks, and he did the oh man, what was it called? It was about the guru, the sex cult that we did, like one of the very first ones that we did. I actually bought the soundtrack. It was so damn good. But anyway, very cool documentary. I would definitely give it 3.5.
Yeah, I'll go 4. I'll go 4.
You go 4 on that one for sure. That was good. I thought it was amazing.
I only got 4 because I shaved off a few points. I modified the score on the third period.
Jay, thank you for the help on this pick, for letting me take this, but unfortunately,
I've got my
you got to pick another one. So
I've got my nose to the ground and my ear to the curb,
and his eyes to the screen.
I watched another one and it was good, and I'm gonna have you watch it. It's the Pez Outlaw on Netflix.
The Pez
Outlaw. Perfect for a hustler like me. It's a great story because I guess similarities, with my hustle attitude. This guy had the hustle attitude.
All right, I'm checking this out because I love.
He was a little farmer that
great
had
candy.
Not a very smart guy. He has a little boring job and starts to get into the industry of buying Pez collectibles and reselling them.
It's a hustle. I'm surprised you haven't tried that.
I had some other hustles. I always have hustles.
As always, you can stream these online, 1047thecave.com or on our 104.7 The Cave app. I am Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you, we watch movies so you don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.